The lights felt cruel, like they were exposing every fear Maya had ever tried to hide. They burned into her eyes, turning the stage into a blur of white and gold, while the audience beyond dissolved into shadows and murmurs. Her name had just been announced, yet her feet refused to move for a second too long. A heartbeat passed. Then another. Somewhere in the crowd, someone coughed. Someone laughed softly. The sound hit her chest like a reminder that she did not belong here, not really, not among polished dreams and confident smiles. Maya finally stepped forward, each movement stiff, rehearsed, as if she were borrowing someone else's body. The microphone felt heavy in her hand, colder than she expected. Her palms were damp. She wiped them against her dress, a simple dress she had sewn herself from leftover fabric her mother brought home from cleaning jobs. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't new. But it was all she had. She looked up and saw the judges. 3 silhouettes at first, then faces as her eyes adjusted. One leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Another smiled politely, the kind of smile that did not promise hope. The third glanced down at a paper, already bored. Maya swallowed. Her throat felt dry, like it had been filled with dust from all the places she had grown up singing, basements, stairwells, empty rooms where echoes were her only audience. The room was quiet now. Too quiet. The kind of silence that waits for you to fail. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure the microphones would pick it up. She opened her mouth to speak, to say her name, to say anything, but her voice cracked before the first word could form. A few people shifted in their seats. Someone whispered. Maya felt heat rise to her face, shame creeping in like an old, familiar friend. She had felt this before. Standing outside classrooms she couldn't afford. Standing at hospital counters she couldn't pay. Standing beside her mother as they counted coins on the kitchen table, deciding what could wait and what couldn't. Fear had always been there, watching her, testing her. She closed her eyes for a moment, just a moment, and the stage disappeared. She was 6 again, sitting on the cold floor of a laundromat, legs swinging, humming softly while washing machines roared like tired beasts. Her mother was nearby, scrubbing floors, hands raw, back bent, still smiling at Maya like nothing in the world mattered more than that small tune. "Sing," her mother had said then. "Your voice makes this place feel warmer." She was 9 again, standing by a hospital bed, singing quietly to her father because words were too heavy for him to answer with. He had smiled, weak but proud, squeezing her hand with what strength he had left. That smile had stayed with her longer than his voice ever did. The memory tightened her chest, but it also steadied her feet. She opened her eyes. The music cue began, soft, unsure, like it was waiting to see if she deserved it. Maya lifted the microphone closer, her hand still trembling, and took a breath so deep it felt like it reached all the way to her childhood. The first note came out fragile. Thin. Almost apologetic. She heard it and nearly panicked. Her mind screamed at her to stop, to run, to disappear before the judges could exchange that look, the one that says, "Next." Her shoulders tensed. Her breath shortened. Then, from somewhere beyond the lights, she heard it. "You've got this, baby." It wasn't loud. It wasn't meant for anyone else. But Maya knew that voice the way you know your own heartbeat. She glanced toward the crowd, squinting, and there she was, her mother, standing at the back, still in her work uniform, holding a mop like a flag of survival. Her eyes were tired, her shoes worn thin, but her smile was steady. Unbreakable. Something in Maya loosened. She sang the next line differently. Not louder. Just truer. The words stopped being notes on a scale and became pieces of her life. Every shift her mother worked. Every meal skipped so Maya could eat. Every night she practiced softly so neighbors wouldn't complain. The fear in her voice began to change shape, turning into something raw and honest. The room felt different now. The whispers stopped. The judges leaned forward without realizing it. The audience wasn't breathing as loudly. Maya felt it, the shift, like a tide turning. Her voice grew. Not perfect, not polished, but full. Each note carried weight, like it had lived somewhere before reaching this stage. She forgot about the lights. Forgot about the cameras. Forgot about the thousands of eyes watching her decide who she was allowed to be. She was just a girl singing because she had to. Halfway through the song, tears blurred her vision, but she didn't stop. She let them fall. Let them mix with the sound. The crack in her voice became the most honest part of it, the place where pain met courage and refused to apologize. One judge wiped his face quickly, hoping no one noticed. Another stared at her like he was seeing someone he had underestimated too many times before. The third sat very still, hands clasped, eyes fixed, as if afraid to miss even a breath. When Maya reached the final note, her chest burned, her legs shook, and her heart felt too big for her body. She held the note longer than she thought she could, pouring everything she had into it, fear, hope, love, loss. Then she let it go. The silence afterward was heavy, sacred. It stretched on, long enough for doubt to try to sneak back in. Maya lowered the microphone slightly, bracing herself. And then someone started clapping. One pair of hands. Then another. Then the sound grew, swelling into something that filled the room, rising around her like a wave she could finally stand inside. Maya stood there, stunned, tears running freely now, as the audience rose to their feet. She searched the crowd again and found her mother, crying openly, hands pressed to her chest like she was holding her heart together. For the first time in her life, Maya didn't feel invisible. She felt heard. The doors behind the stage closed with a soft, final sound, cutting off the roar of applause like a dream fading too fast. Maya stood still in the narrow hallway, the echo of her own footsteps suddenly loud in her ears. The lights back here were dim, unkind, revealing every crack in the walls and every doubt trying to crawl back into her chest. Her hands were still shaking. Not from fear anymore, but from the shock of what had just happened. She leaned against the wall and slowly slid down until she was sitting on the cold floor. The microphone was gone now, taken by someone she barely noticed, but the weight of it still lingered in her palm like a ghost. Her breathing came in uneven waves. Part of her wanted to cry. Another part wanted to laugh. Mostly, she just felt empty, like she had poured everything she owned onto that stage and didn't know what was left. Voices drifted through the walls, contestants celebrating, staff moving quickly, life continuing without waiting for her emotions to catch up. Maya hugged her knees to her chest. The applause replayed in her mind, but so did the silence before it. That terrible pause where she had been sure she failed. Fear was stubborn like that, it didn't disappear just because you survived once. She pulled her phone from her pocket. The screen was cracked, one corner held together with tape. No missed calls yet. No messages. For a brief, irrational moment, she wondered if her mother had fainted, if the stress had been too much. Her chest tightened. Then the phone buzzed. One message. From Mom. I'm watching. I'm so proud I can't breathe. Maya pressed the phone to her forehead, eyes closing as tears finally fell freely. She hadn't realized how badly she needed those words. Not praise. Not validation from strangers. Just that simple reminder that she was still her mother's daughter before she was anything else. Her thoughts drifted backward, pulled by memory the way a tide pulls sand. She remembered the first time she understood what sacrifice really meant. She had been 12, excited about a school trip everyone was going on. She came home waving the permission slip, talking too fast, already imagining the bus ride, the laughter. Her mother had listened quietly, then nodded and smiled. That night, Maya heard her crying softly in the bathroom. The next morning, the permission slip was signed, but her mother's winter coat was gone. Sold. Just like that. Maya hadn't gone on the trip. She lied and said she didn't want to. But the lesson stayed with her: love often looks like silence, not speeches. A door creaked open nearby, snapping her back to the present. Footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. Maya looked up quickly, wiping her face, embarrassed at being caught so vulnerable. It was one of the judges. Up close, he looked older than he had on stage. The confidence was still there, but so were the lines around his eyes, lines carved by years of seeing people hope and break and hope again. He didn't smile right away. He didn't speak either. He just stood there for a moment, studying her like he was trying to understand something he hadn't expected to find. Maya stood up quickly, nerves rushing back. Sorry, she said automatically, unsure what she was apologizing for. He raised a hand gently. You don't need to apologize, he said, his voice lower than she expected. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. She nodded, though she wasn't sure what okay meant anymore. He leaned against the opposite wall, leaving space between them, respectful. You know, he said slowly, most people who walk onto that stage want to be admired. They want to be famous. They want to be seen. He paused, then looked directly at her. You wanted to be understood. Maya felt something tighten in her throat. She hadn't known how to explain it before, but hearing someone else say it made it real. I didn't plan to sing like that, she admitted quietly. I was scared. He gave a small, knowing nod. Fear has a way of telling the truth when we let it. She looked down at her hands, fingers twisting together. I almost stopped. I thought everyone could hear how nervous I was. We could, he said honestly. Then, softer, and that's why we listened. He straightened, pushing himself off the wall. I've heard perfect voices. Thousands of them. What I don't hear often is honesty. You reminded a room full of strangers what it feels like to struggle and still stand up. Before she could respond, he added, no matter what happens next, don't lose that. Don't let anyone polish it away. Then he turned and walked down the hallway, disappearing through another door, leaving Maya alone again, but changed. She stood there for a long time after that, replaying his words. For the first time, success didn't feel like a distant fantasy. It felt like a responsibility. Later that night, after the studio lights dimmed and the crowds dispersed, Maya found her mother sitting on a bench outside, hands folded neatly in her lap. She looked exhausted, her uniform wrinkled, her eyes red from crying. When she saw Maya, she stood up so quickly she almost lost her balance. Maya ran to her, wrapping her arms around her tightly, burying her face into the familiar scent of cleaning soap and fabric softener. It was the smell of home. You were beautiful, her mother whispered. Not just your voice. Your courage. Maya pulled back, tears streaming. I was so scared I'd embarrass you. Her mother cupped her face gently, thumbs brushing away tears. You could never embarrass me. You carried our story with pride. They sat together on that bench, shoulder to shoulder, saying very little. They didn't need to. The night air was cool, the world strangely quiet, as if holding its breath for whatever came next. Maya looked up at the dark sky and felt something new settle inside her, not certainty, not confidence, but permission. Permission to dream without shame. Permission to believe that her voice, born from struggle, deserved to be heard again.